that we can apply to promote, as I said, urbanization, be able to replace subsistence production on small family parcels with large-scale communally owned production systems, create capacity for value addition, and create non-cultivation-based ventures and employment opportunities. However, to the extent that the intended purpose of ideological and policy formulations was not fully realized, and illiteracy, disease, and anger are still prevalent, it is clear that some fundamental mistakes were made, mostly during implementation. The mistakes relate to integrity, especially in the management of public enterprises and other strategic state institutions. Optimal levels in the choice between competing intersector demand for budget allocation, finding the ideal balance between welfare and investment, including the rate of progression, commitment to containment of wastage of resources, and political instability, as well as disruption. For this habit, there's clearly need for us to reprimand leadership at that time. The disorder intimated above not only led to political instability, but also disrupted crystallization of development models that would then deliver convincing answers to the citizens' grand question. In East Africa, independence and nationhood were attained in the context of an already existing form of regional integration. Remember, the East African Common Services Organization. Even if the student body were not born then, I'm sure you can find that in the wonderful Makerere libraries. East African Common Services Organization. That graduated into the East African community. The EAC had, by the early 1970s, become an accomplished regional economic grouping that was only a few steps away from political federation and the rise of a single East African mega-state. Remember, Europe actually borrowed from East Africa. What we know today as European Union is a borrowed stuff from East Africa. And imagine where we would be if we hadn't, because of bad politics in the region, political mistrust. Imagine where we would be. Some of the vexatious issues in integration arrangements had, in our case, actually, at that particular point, been overcome. We had a common currency, common services, including University of East Africa, and we have heard the story of Makerere. That is University of East Africa at Makerere, Nairobi University College, and Dar es Salaam University College were actually constituent colleges of Makerere. No doubt, the seat of academic excellence for the entire East African region back in the day. And I have just heard now, looking at your vision to be the leading academic institution in Africa. You are doing well, but I want to suggest that you can even do better. Free movement of East Africans within the region had begun to render the colonial borders irrelevant. It's only now we are beginning to pick the pieces again. Minister, you referred, was it my good friend, the Vice President, who welcomed me from Nambole. And Nambole was very interesting. It was so exciting. I saw the vibrancy of the East African spirit. I saw combined support of Harambee Stars and Uganda Cranes could actually shake all of us into movement. I now must be honest, because this is very important in terms of academic excellence, and I think integrity of the academics, for me to declare here, the reason I decided to lead the strong delegation from Kenya was because President Museveni actually challenged all of us. We were told that he sponsored 70 buses during the first leg of this match between Harambee Stars and Uganda Cranes. But you see, in Nairobi, these Nairobi people are so busy, that's why Mombasa is always a better place. They never came to fill the stadium. And so Ugandans held this way. Nyayo Stadium, the venue of the contest, became a Ugandan scene. And so we said, wow, this is something. What President Museveni was trying to do was to say, the era for free movement of East Africans is here with us. that Ugandans could freely travel to Nairobi and watch a match. So we said, we'll have to match that somehow. But over and above that message of football, which has the capacity, by the way, to unite East Africans, football games, athletics can unite our people. That's why we've chosen to be very proactive about this thing. But over and above that, we wanted to really further this point by President Museveni, that the time for free movement of East Africans is almost here. And I can tell you here, I wish Minister Rugunda was here, because I'm told he's now Minister for ICT. He was the minister responsible for foreign affairs in 1993, when I was first appointed as Minister for Foreign Affairs. And our other colleague was the Minister Regasira, who was then Minister for Foreign Affairs under President Ali Hassan Mwinyi. The three of us were actually asked to sit and try to see how we could reinvent a form of East African cooperation. I can tell you that, looking at Rugunda that time, and he has a very strong face, he had very strong issues. Kampala and Nairobi were not on talking terms. Believe you me, President Museveni and President Moi were not on talking terms. We had even to use extra diplomatic channels to get the two leaders to speak. But our first assignment was, you ministers, try and put together. And it fell on me to be the first chair. I'm very proud of that fact, of the ministerial tripartite committee. And when President Museveni and President Moi started talking, because there was no issue with Tanzania, we moved very quickly to Arusha. And what has since happened? Tremendous, isn't it? East African community reborn, East African common market. We're even now trying to think how we can harmonize East Africa with COMESA. And I remember President Museveni flew into a primary school across the border in Malaba called Amagoro Primary School. And there they took the decision that both Kenya and Uganda were going to remain first and foremost committed to the spirit of East Africa. And then they are not going to belong to SADC at that time, but they are going to remain within COMESA. Critical decisions taken at the time. And see how far we have since come. Therefore, I want to urge that you all get rid of political mistrust. If you ask ourselves, what was the reason for collapse in 1977? You will be amazed. Of course, there was Eid Amin Dada, and the history of this great country, the suffering Ugandans have gone through, is not lost on any of us as East Africans. That he had to be driven out by Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. That there was Obote 1 and Obote 2. Therefore, having come this far, I speak with sheer emotion. And that's why I said at the beginning, I could not think of a better place to talk about East African integration than for Makerere University, the premier academic institution. Because if Makerere believes in this mission, in the vision of the present leadership in East Africa, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President Mwai Kibaki, President Nkurunziza of Burundi, President Kagame of Rwanda, my very good friend President Jakaya Kikwete, Mrisho Kikwete of Tanzania. If we hold this, if Makerere believes in this vision, if you sneeze, all the other universities will start a cough. Because it is like East Africans have not understood the meaning of integration. The time, ladies and gentlemen, is now. Therefore, let us learn from the soccer fans who want to go everywhere. Let us do that at the level of the academics, the administrations of our various universities. Therefore, it is with emotion that I come to try to convince you this afternoon to think as East Africans. I know there are those who say, like we had, I know our President Museveni, and again, he has never said this, but I can say this. I happen to have known that one of the main reasons President Museveni wanted to be re-elected as president, maybe for the final term, I do not know. But I understand the main reason was to make sure that there's peaceful development in South Sudan. That South Sudan was going to be an independent state.